Ceslie Armstrong, and welcome back. We have had such an incredible day of programming, and I have been looking forward to this moment all day. I have the creators. Really, we're going to get the inside scoop on how America 2.0, the podcast that people are addicted to, I think they binge listened, went back and listened again, and now they're listening slowly to each episode is what I'm hearing. It's really incredible. We're going to find out the inside scoop. I have a great conversation, and I have David Carlyle, I have Spencer Garrett, I have J.S. Mayank here. Sorry, I got to get that right. And they are the creators, producers, writers, and of course, you know, this actor sitting right here in the middle has stage and screen. Too long to list, or it would take up the 40 minutes that we have here today. So I'm sure you recognize him, and he has some other major roles that will be hitting theaters soon. But right now, we're talking about America 2.0. It is a fictionalized almost is how it feels to me, that is incredibly written and performed, 6 episodes, and we're going to talk about the process of it, behind the scenes of how this came to be, and of course starring Laurence Fishburne and many other stars. Go to reinventingtomorrow.com after you're done watching this live stream and you can see who all the celebrities are, the incredible actors that are woven through this story in a way that really keeps you captivated. Now, when we originally spoke about this, one of my fun things that I learned was you guys sort of called each other, JS and David, and said, I have this idea. And you both said, this is crazy, let's do it, right?
Yeah. I mean, it kind of happened like that. So for anybody that's listened to the show, they know the very, very original origin of where the idea came from. And that is, our star, Patrick J. Adams, who's Seth McGuire, he's listening to right-wing talk radio, and he hears these talking heads talking about the national debt, and then he gets this spark of an idea, and that literally happened to me almost verbatim to the way you hear it in the show. I wasn't knitting like Seth was. I was driving a car, which makes more sense to me listening to radio, but almost every bit of it was word for word.
You were knitting while you were driving.
Yes.
In my mind.
It's the thing he doesn't want people to know, but...
Well, I mean, I do have a Tesla, so it does have autopilot, so I could do that theoretically.
Here we go, here we go.
No, so I get this idea, and all the wheels just start turning, and I come up with all these crazy political concepts, and I just call him, and I just start rambling nonstop.
And as soon as he called me, I said, okay, slow down. I don't know if this is actually feasible to do in real life, but my God, it would make a fantastic narrative show.
Right.
And so that's sort of how this whole thing came into being, and with both of us saying, let's try to see what is the story behind this crazy idea.
So when did you jump on board? At what point?
I came on board. I was invited to participate in a table read of a television pilot. Jeremy Gordon, wonderful casting director, and who's now on board with us as a producer on this project. Jeremy called me up, and we had just an informal table read up at AFI, I think it was, right? And I walked in the room, and there was fabulous actors sitting around the table, and it's one of those things where you know some of the people there, and you don't know what it's going to be like, and we sat down and we read the pilot, and an hour later, I walked away from the table thinking, damn, this is one of the best written pilots I've ever heard. I was so excited about it. And
look at these two. We're
I tell the story. It sounds so dorky, but I went up to JS and I said, I hate to be one of those actors, but I said, I really love your writing.
Wow.
And if anything should happen with it, please keep me in mind. And he did.
That's what you want to hear, right?
And what's the other part of this story is, as soon as that table read had happened, I hadn't told David that I was doing this because I just didn't want to get his hopes up.
Yeah, so there's more to the story.
Right,
Oh
and
my
I
God, so
call
this is
him.
what I said behind the story, it really is.
I call David, and the first thing I say to him is, I just met Porter Purvis, which is the character that Spencer plays.
Right.
And immediately it was a thing where we knew that we had met the character. Like, it was the personification of the best version of what we could have imagined.
So did you, at that point, did you redevelop that character a little bit differently, or it was made to order already?
We didn't have to.
We didn't have to.
Oh, wow. That's
we met
unusual.
for
what
their
we
purpose.
wrote.
That's
Yeah,
unusual.
I mean,
Wow.
it was the embodiment of not just the words, but the character that we created.
But it was also the writing on this pilot script was so rich that I literally walked away from the table and I thought, when do we go? When do we
That's
shoot this
awesome.
thing?
Yeah,
Like it is.
yeah.
I said to you right away. I said, this is a shootable script. What's happening with it? Let's go.
Wow.
And then one thing led to another, and then the pilot. We developed it into the podcast, and then we started getting all of these amazing actors on board. But for me, the experience of sitting at that table for an hour and hearing these guys' words, that was also just being a massive West Wing fan.
Yes, yes.
And the political climate that we found
Yes.
ourselves in the last couple of years, feeling a sort of a nostalgia for telling, as a political junkie and somebody who loves that world, two writers that really get that world in a really specific and wonderful way. And I just thought, who better to kind of reboot that political narrative drama
Right.
than these guys? And
The timing
Timing
is
is-
incredible. That's a
yeah, the
I remember
stars-
saying
the
it
stars
almost
aligned.
seems fictionalized to me because seems to be just the pulse of our nation
Yeah.
and really of our globe right
Yeah.
now. All eyes are on what we're doing and what's happening, and I don't want to get political here, but it sure is nice to have a really well-written, well-produced slice of political drama to
Yeah.
listen to that's entertaining versus turning on the news. Sorry, but
and I was I mean, we'll get into how
Yeah.
this went from a pilot script into a podcast.
Yes.
But I was a stranger to the podcast world entirely, and then these guys turned me on to I guess it was Homecoming and a couple of other things, and now since I've listened to maybe 100 different podcasts, but I
Wonderful.
really was not aware of how massive the podcast world was.
Yes.
And so I started listening to some of the other shows and the production values on some of those other
Yes.
shows and the
Yes.
quality of actors that they got.
Yes.
And so
and the writing.
and the writing.
Yes.
I mean, the writing on Homecoming was extraordinary, and
So-
some of these other things, and I just thought we can do that.
So did you listen to Homecoming and then watch it on Amazon with Julia Roberts?
I did. I watched.
You did both.
Yeah, I watched some of it
formats.
on Amazon. I think I would safe to say I'm more of a fan of the podcast. I love all the actors and I love the creators of the the people. I mean,
Sure.
Sam Esmail, they did an amazing
Yeah,
job with
yeah.
the TV series, but orally
Yes.
speaking, listening to those actors and immersing yourself in that world and the way it was performed with Catherine Keener and Oscar Isaac. I mean, they
Yeah.
did such an amazing job. And so I think in a way, we weren't trying to replicate that by any stretch, but it gave us kind of a benchmark in a way of what was possible for us to do. And our sound designers and our our
Right,
crew,
right.
we created a world, a very specific Washington D.C. world
Right.
of our own.
You really do, and viewers, if you haven't yet, we don't want to give it all away, but if you haven't yet, you definitely need to start listening. One of the things
Now.
that not now, no, wait till this is over.
Wait till this is over. The interview could end first.
Yeah, but talk about, you mentioned the sound design, the sound imaging in this. I spent a lot of time in DC, and I have to tell you, I sort of closed my eyes and felt like, am I on K Street? Like it really, the sound imaging was quite special in that. And regarding setting the bar high, I think that it's thrilling because of the growth of the audio industry that's happening now and the storytelling. I'm very happy that there are shows out there that have set the bar high,
Yeah.
like America 2.0, Homecoming, and certainly others. Narrative is a small slice
Yeah.
of the industry right now. We talked about that a little bit. I'd like to talk more about that. But in the meantime, I do want to know, I want our viewers to know how the show came together on the production side, because that's interesting. I asked you guys, before, was it sort of like, an animated film where, the actors come in, they go into the voice booth and they do how do you construct and produce such a well-written show with so many moving parts and no visuals?
So what was really interesting for us was, as Spencer pointed out, none of us had done a podcast. We didn't know how to do any of it.
We
So
had no idea what we were doing.
But we
Well, maybe
really
you didn't have any bad habits.
Right,
either,
that's
so,
exactly it is.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
what it
yeah,
is.
yeah.
We sort of took the script down, broke it into episodes, and everything was, can we understand this orally? Can we just do this with audio?
Right.
And then in that table read that Spencer alluded to was where we truly understood, oh my God, this sounds so rich, that the dialogue, it has a timing, a sense of cadence, a pace that it doesn't require a whole lot. So then when it came down to actual recording of it, our incredible star cast was a blessing and a curse, because getting a lot of people together.
You had Laurence Fishburne largely in Toronto, Patrick Adams finishing up Suits in Toronto, Kate Walsh in New York. Everybody was all over the globe.
Wow.
And everybody that we ended up assembling was just all over the place.
Wow.
We've got the greatest people in the world, but to get them together at the same time was a challenge.
And so but what I'm loving about this, and we're here at Digital Hollywood, so it's a lot of industry people. Some people might throw up their hands and say, well, it's too much, it's impossible, they're scattered to the wind, we'll try it again in 2023 or whatever, but not you guys.
No, we made it work. We said to everybody,
Yeah.
whenever you can give us 1 day, 2 day, 3 days, whatever we needed. And, Spencer being the incredible actor and producer and team player, sort of threw up his hands and he read opposite almost every actor. And the great advantage we had was we don't have a reader, we have a proper actor. So he
That is a
varied
huge
his
difference,
Yeah,
right?
so all our actors sort of got that energy, and Spencer and I would have, just conversations, because he got it. He was our producer, so he knew the tone and he knew sort of how to play it, so that as the director and David being in the booth listening, we really could just focus on bringing the most out of the character on the day. We did have the good fortune that Spencer was able to work with Jack Coleman, and their scenes were together. And we also had Patrick and Autumn for a lot of their scenes together for Seth and Olivia.
But
and
that's it.
Yeah, that's
everybody
it.
else was separate.
Did I read with Laurence? Did I read Patrick's stuff with Laurence? Yes.
Indeed. So.
But see, as the listener, you...
Right.
No, I would
you
never,
can't. No.
never
And
know.
that was the
Yeah.
sort of, also the brilliance of our editor and our sound designers, but sort of knowing, I was hearing it, I was cutting it in my head while we were recording.
Wow. Yeah.
And, there were times when we played it for Mr. Fishburne, he said, did I record this with Patrick and I forgot about it because I'm in the scene, I couldn't tell you.
That's
I
fun.
wasn't. Remember when he said that?
I love
And
that.
that was sort of our thing where I would talk to our...
You're like, yeah, we did
no,
all
that
right.
was
Yeah.
great.
When we got Lawrence's approval, we went up to the house, and he was on board from the beginning. And what the greatest thing that he possibly could have said was, he loved everything about it, but it's astonishing when you listen to this thing that you think that all these actors are together in the same room, and the way that it was pieced together is really amazing. And I still to this day I love his line, "What was your reaction to it?" And he said, "It's like an iron fist in a velvet glove." And try to picture Laurence Fishburne saying that to you.
Oh my
and he
God. I want to
melted.
hear it. I'm like, oh my God.
I was like,
yeah.
I can put that on my tombstone right now. But he did say another thing, which
That's
is...
a marketer's dream,
Oh
by the way.
my God, exactly. I thought I was the writer.
Yeah, you're right. Oh, yeah.
No, so those were the things, and just going back to a little bit of the audio design that you were talking about, I did want to say Rusty Dunn was our incredible sound effects editor and our mixer too, and Mitch from Formosa. But what sort of was different about what we were doing, and now a lot other people are doing this, was we directed each and every scene, which is, it's not just putting the dialogue together and then putting some sound effects. While doing every scene, I would tell my sound editor, this is the room, back there is the chair in the left-hand corner. We're gonna pan over, and then you're going to see there's a fish tank. And he's like, well, but you don't hear it. And I said, people will. They might not exactly know what it is, but you're doing set decoration, you're doing costuming, you're doing
But this goes back to what you said before, we didn't know what we were doing.
Right.
You think that, but you approach this in the same process and workflow
As a filmmaker.
that
Right.
that's inherently as filmmakers and creators and performers. So that you can hear that though.
Right.
Like you can hear the difference.
Yeah.
You don't know it.
Yeah.
You just that's the best thing when you know something's really, really, really good and you're not sure why.
Yeah.
Like that is a great compliment there. Yeah.
And also, as flattered as David and I are for all the compliments, the biggest compliment we have to give is to our amazing cast, because genuinely to have that chemistry that Kate Walsh and Patrick J. Adams have, and to this day, to my knowledge, they have not met each other.
No, they have not.
Right.
Oh, wow.
That comes from somebody just being that incredible.
Right.
Having that command on their craft. And, my hat's off to our amazing cast, which, big thanks to Jeremy Gordon and Spencer, who really helped us pull all of that together.
But you two, David and JS, you guys knew each other ahead of time.
We've known each other since
partners in crime.
Yes.
2006. Yeah, we actually met in screenwriting class.
Right.
In college, yeah?
Yeah, we met at Wake Forest. Yeah,
it's like a buddy movie.
But it literally was screenwriting class.
Yes.
That's where we met.
Oh wow. So let's go back to that screenwriting class. How did you? Was it through a friendship that then you decided, hey, let's write together? Because I've worked with a lot of artists, and they want to write a song together. And you ask them why, they say, we just want to. It's a feeling. Like we feel our artistry is aligned. We want to. Was it a feeling? Was it something you said, let's get a beer
The thing
and start
is,
writing?
this is going to sound kind of cliche, but
Right.
like when we met, I just instantly knew this is somebody I was going to be friends with for the rest of my life.
Love it.
And I came up with an idea for a movie, and he just looked at me and he was like, you want to write it together?
Yeah.
And then that was it.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah,
mean,
it
from
really
there.
was. I mean, it was instant. Our sensibilities were so aligned, but our strengths were sort of counter to each other, so that coming together, all of our work is made better by working together.
Right.
And we just, a lot of people ask us that, oh, so you're in a writing partnership. How do you settle debates? How do you, when you have fights? And we just both look at it, we're like, we've never
We don't
had
have
one.
them. The
Okay,
best
you
way
heard
to
it
settle
here.
a
You heard
debate
it
is
here
just
first.
not have one.
It's just, we don't
So
have that.
for anybody out there looking for a writing
I know,
partner,
now I'm worried.
just find
It's
somebody you
never-
never argue with. Find somebody that you'll get along with for the rest of your life, and then you'll be fine. It's that easy.
So are you working on separate projects?
Yes,
Or-
we
Yes.
do as
So
well.
so there are certain things that just being a different interests, and also I also direct, and there are things in television features that I want to do separately, but mostly I think it's also my interests sometimes are a lot more varied. For example, I love musicals. That is not one of David's strengths. So if I want to do a musical,
Right.
they'll be like, go with God. I will support you, but that's not my cup of
He
tea.
directed a musical that is fabulous.
Oh, really?
Thank you. Yeah.
You want to tell us real quick?
Oh, it's called Supernumerary. It was my sort of like love letter to
You know that old cliche, titling your musical supernumerary. It's been done.
It's been done. Also, we're in. Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Well, so I do want to, before I'm going to add the question, I know, I'll just ask it now, that is on everybody's mind, that I'm hearing. People sent me questions they want me to ask you guys is, America 2.0.1? Like what's,
Well, we're not changing the name. It's a really good name. So it's
Okay,
always going to be America
yeah.
2.0. The story is not over. We are
It just is
absolutely,
not over. It is not over,
We
yeah.
can't drop it on you that he's, the president of the United
That would be
States
mean.
at the end.
That would be
and
very mean.
Never tell the story further after
Yeah,
that. No,
yeah.
it's absolutely not over. We are continuing to work on it. We don't have anything to announce today, but promise you,
We have
it's
things in the
happening.
work.
Yeah.
So I probably was a little remiss in this, but we should give the audience, the live audience here, a overview of the storyline. Who wants to handle that one?
You go. You're the writer.
David,
All right, I
take
can do it. So, for the audience, right? So, America 2.0, it's the story of Seth McGuire.
So
He is a
good.
first-term congressman. He's an idealist. He's an optimist, and he's terrible at his job. So he decides he wants to run for president of the United States on a platform to give every American citizen $1 million. And that's America 2.0.
Yeah.
And then all hell breaks loose.
Yeah, it does. But
Wackiness ensues.
Yeah.
But
There
the
we
thing
go.
we want everybody to know is it isn't a political show. It's a show in the world of politics, but it's positive, it's optimistic, it's aspirational. You know, politics used to be something that people used to aspire to. It was,
Right.
you know, the best and the brightest. And now it's
Right.
become something you say politics and people roll their eyes.
Right.
And we didn't want to do that. We wanted
Right.
to
Well,
do
We
something.
couldn't do that.
Right.
It's nobody wants that right now. You know, you can't make
We already
a
have
show
that
like
right
this.
now, yeah.
You can't hold a mirror up to society. What we want to do is we want it to feel like it could be real. Like
Right.
this could happen right now. So to a certain extent, it does need to feel real.
Grounded.
But it's not the world we live in right now. Because the world we live in right now is too divisive and too corrosive. And we want people to feel good about this. Because
Right.
if you watch America 2.0 and you get to the end, you feel like, you know what? That's what it could be.
Yeah.
And that's what we want people to take away from it.
Well, that's interesting. So, Spencer, I have to ask you, because you have had so many incredible roles across a lot of different formats and platforms. Obviously, I would say you've been offered scripts before that were political in nature, about politics,
Oh, can I just cut you
storylines
off?
like that.
So he said he was a big West Wing fan, right? Just to give
Okay.
a little. So he played Richard Wilk in season 2 of The West Wing.
Oh,
yes, that was his
okay.
character's name.
Okay.
That's how
How
big
do
of a
you know
West Wing
that?
fan I am.
Wow.
So
Oh,
yes,
okay.
he's not the
remember that.
only one. So
Yeah.
yes, he
Such a
has
great
done
show.
political shows
Wow.
before.
Okay.
I'm impressive.
So my question really is,
Yeah.
I know you said it was exceptional writing at the table read, but was there something else different about it, that it wasn't just, oh, here's another political script or a political thriller, or, you know?
I honestly, I mean, it sounds mushy, but it was this guy.
Yeah.
It was this guy. I mean, we I think we instantly felt a sort of kinship right off the
Right.
bat when we met, and I think we met for lunch about a week later. I was so intrigued with the idea of getting this thing made somehow, some way, not just. Hey, I'm an actor. I'd like to be on board
Right,
one day,
right.
but I wanted to be involved in it, and yeah, you know, it's just like I'm attracted to talent. I'm attracted to great writing and great storytelling, and I'm lucky enough to get to be parts of projects where, I mean, I've in the last several years, I mean, I've gotten to play Bob Woodward and Sean Hannity
Right.
and Tom DeLay, and
Right.
I mean, guys that are immersed in that world of politics. So
Right.
obviously, it's something that I have a feel for. And when I read this script, it was just like it was red meat to me. I just had to
Right.
I had to be a part of it somehow.
Right.
So,
Well, that's great.
did
That's
that answer your question? I don't know if that answered your
it
question.
did, because
Yeah.
I'm thinking of our audience here at Digital Hollywood, and of course we have a lot of industry people here that are writers and producers and directors, and there's workshops here where they talk about, you know, how do we do something different?
Yeah.
You know, there's so many scripts out there. Like, what is it? And people say, well, you have to have good writing. Okay, but really, it's sort of like, what's the zazazoo? You know, what's the secret sauce? And from what I'm hearing, it sounds like it's relationship based. The
I
relationship
think
between
it's
the
relationship.
writers,
When
between
you
you
find-
guys. Yeah.
I just think in this case the stars aligned, and it's
Mm-hmm.
two terrific writers who love story and know how to drive story, and I was lucky enough to have worked with a lot of the actors that we had
Right.
as part of our cast, and so I just picked up the phone and said, hey, could you?
That's awesome.
And they love the material.
Yeah.
And they love to be a part of it. And, so,
Well,
and also something that's kind of an emerging, this medium that is just getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
Oh, my gosh,
So
yeah.
it was sort of a no-brainer.
Well, and the testament to that really is, you know, you can reach out to people that are friends or you have a relationship with, but if the work's not good, they're gonna say
Yeah.
like, I love you, Spencer, but not doing the project. Yeah. So that
But
didn't
also,
really
I mean-
happen. Yeah.
Huh?
Also, you wouldn't ask if it wasn't.
Yeah, but also just the drive that these guys have, and the proactive force that they brought to getting this ball rolling. I mean, we were saying before we started this that from the table read to wrapping the project in the recording studio, it was a year. I mean, it doesn't happen that quickly.
Right.
These guys raised the money, they got the recording studio, we put the cast together. It happened really rapidly.
Right.
And I was inspired by how incredibly powerful they were able to, be in getting this thing off the ground.
Moved it forward.
Yeah.
So let's talk about post, because that is something we touched on a little bit about the repetitiveness. Look at their faces. They're like, oh, do we have to talk about that?
I want to say one more thing, though, also, because to have a director like this in the booth with you, sort of crouched down and giving you notes.
Oh.
As, I mean, he was in while I would be reading with somebody. JS was there sort of coaxing you along and giving, throwing his ideas, because he knows these people. He knows who these characters are. These guys created these characters from whole cloth, and he had a very specific idea of how he wanted them played. So to have a director and writers like this that know what they want, it's an actor's dream.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is.
So great.
What was interesting about that aspect of it is sometimes I had scenes that I was directing, 3 months apart into completely different studios, but half and half. One actor I'm doing now, one actor I'm going to get, 3 months from now.
It sounds like a film.
Right.
Yeah.
But they're both in the same scene.
Right.
Right. So I had to keep all of that in my head.
There's no CGI. There's no there's no
tricking it. So I constantly had to keep everything in my head. But what's really the other part of the fun thing is what David will tell you.
Yeah, so when we were recording, so he would be in the room with the actors. I sat in the recording booth, so I was listening to it through the big speakers. Sorry. So with, all the sound equipment and listening to it through the big speakers, so we had a slightly different perspective, and we would each mark what we thought was our favorite take, each one of the actors would do. And then we went back to his apartment, and we literally spent, days going through every take of every line from every actor, going through and choosing the best take. And the cool thing about a podcast, because you're not seeing the actors, right, is you can actually choose the best individual line from every scene from every actor, which is really cool for us to be able to do. It was made a little easier by us marking what we thought were our best takes, but we would go through and we'd spend just hours and hours going through, and we'd go through and he'd look at me like, okay, 7, 5, 7, and we'd just nod our heads every time, and it was always the same.
Did you usually agree? You agreed?
No, 100% of the time.
There wasn't one take that we both didn't agree on.
I love it.
And we're talking about doing this thousands of times. Every line, thousands of lines, it was crazy.
So, we're have a slate right now. We're producing at various stages, but we're in this thing where we keep trying to slate things, and we're trying to get the audio slating correct. And then sometimes when a creative run starts happening, we throw the slating process out the door, and it's harder. It seems harder to me. I don't know if you experience that too, when you're looking at such small bites of audio that can help build a bigger story.
Right.
Just the process of it, I think, is pretty difficult.
It was difficult, but again, I had the whole thing in my head. The second each actor said their first line, I knew I heard it. So I was just trying to get all of those individual pieces together.
Right.
And that's where it helped, because David and I sort of came up with it together, and there's that unity of vision, but then there's that trust that David, Jeremy, Spencer, every actor says, you hear it, you know what it is, just tell us what you need and we'll give it to you.
Well, there is no way somebody could have come in, parachuted in to this process midstream and made it happen. This really was a beginning, middle, and an end, all the way holding hands, it sounds like.
It felt like it happened in 3 days, even though it took a year. It was the fastest year. There's no way that there will ever be another year of my life that goes by as fast as that year. Never.
Yeah.
I miss it. I miss the process.
All right. Well, you got to come on.
Really
you got to get into production.
Going to work on this was such a joy, and I know for you. And also, what other director? JS insisted on having there are parts in the podcast, in the series, where our lead character, our hero Seth, tends to get glasses of wine or champagne things thrown in his face. And so, because we didn't always have Patrick there, and JS was reading with a lot of people, JS insisted on taking one for the team. So whenever Seth would have a glass of champagne thrown in his face, JS would say, "Come at me." So he'd be in the booth, and he'd have water thrown at him all the time. He's a little masochist. You just love that.
No, so here's the context.
Is there a unit photographer on the set? Is what I want to know.
We have
Come
video.
on.
We have video. So
Okay,
here's the context for that. There was a spit take and there were things thrown at. But
Right.
when we were doing it with the actors in point, we were doing it into a trash can. And listening to it, you could hear.
It sounded like it was going into
Right.
a trash can.
It sounded
Yeah,
fake. So they
yeah.
said, well, maybe you won't be able to do it. And I said, no, we're going to. So I just went up to the actor and I said, I didn't want them to do it to another actor because there are no, nothing,
Yeah.
there's no cameras. So I said, just do it to me. And they did it. And then it became a running joke where everybody wanted to do it. So I was like,
yeah.
you know what? There's no bonding with the director better than this.
That's
So
right,
I'll do it.
that's
And,
right.
Kate Walsh threw a glass of water in my face and then that's my bucket list item.
You
Right,
loved it, you
exactly.
loved
I got a
it.
great
Oh my
story to
gosh.
tell.
So how is the cast? Let's talk about the cast and because they probably, did you send them in advance to listen to? Did they?
No.
Did they go on?
No.
Did they go on
every
whatever
person,
platform and
I think
listen?
it was a combination of Spencer, Jeremy, our casting director, and then the script. There is that adage that when
No, but I mean, when
the work
it
is
was
there.
done, did you
Oh.
send them in advance before you published it?
Actually, the only person, Spencer heard every cut because he
Sure,
was a producer. Mr. Fishburne heard it, but aside from that, everybody just sort of. They trusted me, and I
Yeah.
sent them the trailer
Yeah,
beforehand.
yeah.
Patrick, I did go and play
Right.
the whole thing,
Yeah.
but those were the only three. Everybody else just said, "We want to hear it," and had they asked, I would have absolutely,
Sure, but
done
it's
it.
that's
but
one of the
they kind of wanted to just listen to it when everybody else was
Yeah,
listening
that's what
to
I'm
it.
thinking. It's sort of we're learning about sort of, you're trying to produce something the way you know how to produce it, right, with your craft. But then there's other things like the technology and the distribution and things that is, you think, well, we're not going to go to the Ziegfeld and do a film premiere, push, upload, bing, it's a different thing. Yeah, so
Yeah, but
you must have gotten a lot of feedback though. once
Absolutely.
published.
I
Yeah.
distinctly remember when our episode went online and then Ming-Na, who plays Helen Chan, who's
Such a
just
good job. Oh, my
incredible
gosh.
actress. She's
Yeah.
one of my favorite
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
I call her Empress.
I love
so
it.
if she ever listens to this. But I remember she texted me at close to midnight or 1 a.m. because she had just wrapped on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and she said, I'm just on my way home and I'm so sorry for the late text, but I just finished listening to it. And oh my God, I'm there. I'm in DC. How did this happen? And so every week I would get those texts and those calls from our cast saying, "Wait, how did this happen?" Shanola would call me. He's like, "Oh my God, I can hear my bag and all these things."
No,
like,
the
I could
sound imaging
picture
on this is
when we
incredible.
didn't do any of that.
Yeah.
There were a lot of happy accidents too with the casting as well.
Okay.
I mean, my manager was also represented Ming-Na, and he represented Autumn Reeser. Steven Weber, Jack Coleman, Laurence Fishburne, Kate Walsh, Patrick Adams, who's a friend. I mean, we all sort of know each other. We've all kind
Nice.
of cross-pollinated with work over the years, but we had our wish list of actors, and we pretty much got everybody on our wish list.
That's so
and
great.
nobody said no.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I think we were kind of, I think at one point we were like, Lin-Manuel Miranda would be great for Seth. Let's get him on the phone. And then we got a hold of Lin-Manuel Miranda's manager and said, yeah, he's only booked for the next 7 years.
Yeah.
So there were a couple of people that were just sort of
Sure.
like, your pipe dreams, yeah.
Yeah, but so this to me is just what's so cool right now about the growth of the industry. Let's
Yeah.
talk about that a little bit because I was very excited when Victor Harwood, the founder of Digital Hollywood, I've been coming as a moderator since the 90s, this thing. And so I said to him, let's audio. And he said, let's do the podcast forum and, really bringing it in because it feels like it is standing up right next to film, right next to television. Now, of course, there's a tremendous amount of growth. But that's also, I don't know if I could speak for my own career. I've been in audio for a long time, terrestrial radio, satellite, blah, blah. I am so jazzed right now. Like, it is a whole new, it's like a breath of fresh air.
It's like the
it
Wild
feels
West
like.
right now.
Yeah. I kind of feel, in that, in the film Far and Away with Nicole Kidman and Tom Cruise, and they get on the horse and they have the flag and they say, the horse takes off and whoever gets there first and puts the flag down. It kind of feels like that right now.
That was the Oklahoma land run.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was.
That's what the podcast world is.
That's what it is.
That's what media is like right now.
Yes. Yeah. It's so great. I never thought at this point in my career or in the industry, I mean, you always think, like, what could be next? What could be new? And then lo and behold, here we are.
But I think what's really interesting is that a lot of these successes are still based on, is the idea good? Are the people putting out good content,
That's the
right?
universal.
Which is why it's like, whether it's podcasts, whether it's talent going to television or streaming or all this stuff, like all those divides are now going away because people are like, well, it's a great story and it's done in a good, thoughtful, meaningful way. So I think content is still king.
Yeah. So we have a few minutes left, but I'm going to put you on the spot and just say, what do you think is next for podcasting, for audio entertainment? Of course, AI, artificial intelligence and home speakers and delivery systems, smart speakers and that sort of thing. That's not really where I'm going with audio. I'm talking about the storytelling side of it. Like, have you guys given it much thought?
If you think about what we did, there used to be a time where if you were a filmmaker and you wanted to make it big, you'd go out and you'd make an indie movie and you could do it for a little bit of money. But it's getting harder and harder to do that when movies cost more and more money. And TV, it's getting harder and harder to do that when everything costs more money. And then the media conglomerates that own everything just keep getting bigger and bigger. And I think podcasting has become an avenue for people to break into the business because you can do it for a lower cost.
Right.
Now, this wasn't cheap to do, but it was enough that JS and I could put our own money together and make it.
That must feel good too, though, to do that.
It didn't at the time because we didn't have any money until we got paid, from the advertisers
beer, pizza,
that did the
and ramen,
podcast.
right?
Because we were doing this on a hope and a prayer. The idea that hopefully we'll make our money back. Right. And it worked. It was awesome. And because of people like Spencer and the amazing cast that we had, we were able to make our money back. But you have no idea if that's a possibility. But like what Spencer was talking about earlier, we believed in this so much that we were willing to do whatever it takes.
Yeah.
And I think that's so important for people that are trying to break into the business to know that this is an avenue that you can do it on your own and you can make it happen. And I think that's huge for podcasting. For people that want to know, how do I turn a great story into something real? I think this is a new medium that makes it possible.
Yeah, it's the democratization of storytelling in a way, and also the platform is, if it's up there, like anybody around the world can listen to it. We were surprised by how many people all around the world loved it, not just in the U.S. Because
we're meeting one of our fans.
Yes, we are, from France, who named a gem after us.
She, a wonderful woman who's a cookbook author, Jamie Sclair. Is that how you pronounce her name? She's in France, and she became our biggest fan in France.
I love it.
And she lives in the south of France, and she writes cookbooks. And she made a jam for us
called
Wow 2.0, and she's sent us some pear jam. And she's coming to LA next week, and we're gonna actually get to meet her in person.
I love
That's
it.
the kind of stuff that's just like, fans in Ireland and the UK and Australia
and the non-English speaking countries, which was the biggest surprise to us because, you can't see it, so you can't subtitle it.
Right.
So the fact that, we shot up the charts in South Korea and China and some of these countries that you would never think would have a market for this, but it was huge in all those places.
That is the impact of great storytelling, great production, great performance, all coming together at it's just, I'm so happy for you guys. It's so exciting. It really is exciting. I can't wait to hear what's next. So you have to promise me, you got my number.
Absolutely.
Like you got, I really want to know. No, people do. I'm getting flooded with once we put it out there that I was going to speak with you guys today. People say, well, we want to know what's next. What's the next one? So you definitely have to let me know. So David and Spencer and Jess, thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
Being here today, of course, the creators all the way around, team effort of America 2.0. You can listen to it on your favorite platform, wherever you like to get your audio. And you won't listen to it once, you'll listen to it multiple times. And now that we've told you to really listen for this sound design and to think about those things, when you hear the water splashing, you're gonna be, well, that's Kate Walsh
Call it
throwing
TV for your ears.
TV for
It's
your
TV for
ears.
your
That's
ears.
it. That's it. Okay, everybody, thank you for being on the live
Thank you so
stage
much.
at Digital
Thanks, Leslie.
Hollywood. Coming up next, we've got another great show for you.